Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. As you guys know, of course, recording. But specifically, I wanted to break down the exercises a bit too. So I've been getting kind of ahead of myself and at least explaining where this is going, right? It's turning into an observation tower. However, we can't just suddenly start making one, especially if you've really never done this before. For some of us, yeah, it might definitely be a review and you may be a little more intuitive about it. However, for this assignment, it's just the stairs, right? So just the stairs, ramps, and rails, right, of our potential observation tower. So a couple of things that we'll need to do, and let's just maybe cover it. So the next operation of our observation tower will require refinement and diagramming as we continue. However, before we just start putting things into a cohesive object, let's focus on only the vertical circulation, right? Maybe a little bit better at saying what I just said, but for this example, we're definitely going to use a 6-inch by 12-inch stair, right? So normally stairs are actually like 7 1/4 by 11 and 3/4. We'll just keep it simple. 6-inch by 12-inch treads, and essentially we'll go from there. In terms of ramps, we'll stick to a 1-inch to 12 ratio, right? So every 12 inches it goes up 1 inch, right, to give you that slope. So just kind of some basic standards, and of course we have our wonderful steps, but let's cover the needs first. So we definitely need vertical circulation that reaches some sort of top deck, right? So of course we'll cover that today. Must use both stairs and ramps, but that's only if you're D2 and above, right? If you haven't taken D1 or you're not even in D2 yet, please just worry about stairs, right? However, for my guys that are in D3 or have passed D2, I would love to see some ramps and stairs, right, for both of those. And last but not least, must have at least one floor plane before, I don't know why I put a space there, before observation deck. Maybe I just didn't finish my sentence, my bad. For this one, really just looking for 111 by 17, 45 by 45, similar to the axonometric that we have here. Plan oblique drawing, showing a bounding box of a 30 by 30 and by the height that's used. So some of us use different heights. Some of us use 50 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet. What I would say is make sure that you use the same that you did in assignment 3. Does that make sense, guys? Anyway, of course we have week 6, 7, and 8 sort of laid out for us. It is subject to change, so it is what it is. But of course, if you need it, it is both. Actually, I just printed out a bunch of copies. What do I do with them? So of course, even though we just covered this and went over the mistakes that are unfortunately on it, there is a physical copy going around as well. So let's continue. Let's get right into it. First step, it tells us make sure the abstraction is saved. Perhaps hide it in the same file. So I don't know about you. Some of you guys might be doing every single one of these exercises in one Rhino file. I kind of do that too. But for the sake, I might need it just in case I want to get that height again or see something about this. So what I'm going to do for today is just hide it, right? And of course, if I type in show, I can bring it back, right? Probably don't need any of this either. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that as well. And let's just focus on stairs, right? Maybe I do need some of that so I can see where I am first. That way I don't accidentally make something the same. So the first thing I want to do is make a bounding box of some sort. So in my case, I'm just going to make a box. All right, I'm going to choose 30 by 30, so 30 feet by 30 feet. And in my case, it looks like I chose also 30 feet, or maybe something like 35. I might have to actually measure it. How do I measure in Rhino? Did I go over that already? You could draw a line and find the length of that line, so let's at least cover one thing. I can draw that line, I could draw it, pretty dang close, type in length, and it's going to tell me right at the bottom, 9,264 millimeters. Now I should probably put the units different, but Of course, we could find that calculation and figure out what feet it is as well. I could also type in units, switch it to feet, but it's actually going to make it 9,000 feet long, so I don't really want that either. Again, this is why it's so important before you make anything, check your units and make sure that it's feet, right? However, another thing that we could do is dimension, so DIM, and similar to like AutoCAD, right? We can click 2 points, bring it off to the side, and in my case it's very, very small, but 9,264 millimeters. Maybe we just do that calculation. Not really a big deal. Since I know that number, I'll just make it that tall, right? So 9264, sweet. But just in case you didn't know, right? So again, I was making my box. You'll notice I can put in feet dimensions, honestly any dimensions no matter what. So I'll put 9,000, I already forgot the number, 438, why not, right? Pretty darn close. But at least we have some sort of bounding box so that we know not to really get outside of it, right? So I'll kind of keep that to the side. I could also, I could wireframe it. I could, kind of do a lot of things to it. But for instance, we could just kind of look at it, as an empty box as well, right? We can make it inside that box or make it outside that box. Really doesn't matter. It's kind of whatever is your own preference. I like to make things outside of it. That way I can actually line them back up. So I'm going to go ahead and make a rectangle, 30 feet by 30 feet. Oh, I think I accidentally did 30 inches. 30 feet by 30 feet. There we go. So I'm going to make it inside this box. So I do want to cover a couple of different ways to make some of these objects or sculpt them. First one, I'm going to zone in and zoom selected. That way, just in case you didn't know about that, guys, zoom selected is like your best friend, especially if you notice that you can't zoom in to your object that you want to work on. So first things first, I need to draw a profile of that stair. So I need to choose a view, right? And what I will do is I'll make a polyline, and I basically just need to draw the profile, basically like in an elevation, right? So let's find my elevation view. Something that works for me, awesome, right? However, that's kind of the start of it, so I kind of want this one. But it's overlapping with that one. Why would that not be a good idea, right? Because it's gonna accidentally get stuck. So let's move that a little bit. Oh, not down, to the side. That way I can work on it outside in this space as well. Does look like it's getting confused with these as well, so now that I have some bounding box and stuff to work with, I'll go ahead and hide those. Sweet. So like I said, we need to draw a profile. Now this is where I honestly prefer to have all 4 views open, right? That way I can constantly see what I'm doing in real time, right? So again, polyline and drawing the profile. So that's how I, of course, establish my point there. And in this case, I want to go up 6 inches, right? And across 12. Now I could do this indefinitely. I can hold shift, I could honestly just keep going and going, or I can make 1 and copy it. Right, I can use that same point that I just made, and I could even do it in the 3-dimensional view. Not too bad. We'll start off with a couple of stairs. Let's say there's a landing, so I'm going to do another polyline. I'm going to go with a 4-foot landing. Since I already have a foot, I'm going to go 3 feet. I'll go down, doesn't really matter here because I'm going to trim it off anyway. I do want to get a nice angle, right? So I want to use the angle that, of course, I've already established. So I'm going to type a line. I'm going to use the points that I already have, and I'm going to go ahead and offset it. Typically, a stair is anywhere from a foot to 6 inches, so I'll do 8 inches. 9 inches would probably be better, but you guys see the profile coming about? Right? Almost got it. So we'll take that length, right? Create another line. Dash it across. We can trim it. TR, trim, awesome. We can put it all together. Join. You can make sure that it joins by clicking on it and going, yep, definitely joined. We can get the rest of them, join them as well, and it looks like we just need one more line at the bottom. Because for this operation, we will need a closed profile curve. Right? So I do want to take that little line. Oh, looks like I accidentally made a line that's all crazy. Again, why it's so important to have all three views open at the same time. You might be able to catch it actually in here. Could also hide that real quick so I can see it a little bit better. And just connect those lines. Another thing that we could do is close curve. So if I wanted to be really lazy, I could just say close curve, and it's going to magically put a straight line there for me anyway, right? This is really helpful if you're trying to extrude something and it doesn't work or it doesn't close. Very often it's because the curve that you used, well, it isn't closed, right? In fact, if you type in what on this object, it'll tell you if it's a closed curve, right? Somewhere in here, valid curve, closed. See, it even tells us. Anyway, however, that's not a dang straight line. So maybe closed curve isn't the best tool right now. So let's try another way. Let's go ahead and just draw a line, hold shift so that it's straight, and again trim. Hopefully my lines don't disappear in the recordings. However, I do think this screen share definitely messes with my graphics card. So we've got the profile. We'll join it just to kind of double check. It did join two curves for us, so going well. But now we'll make all of the stairs at once. So I'll extrude this now. Yeah, you know, maybe I want a 6-foot stair, maybe I want a 3-foot stair, 2-foot stair. That'd be kind of ridiculous. Let's just go with the basics, 3-foot stair. Awesome. Oh, 3 feet, enter. Sweet. So now we got a 3-foot stair. Not too shabby. I can reselect my extrusion, focus in on it, double check some things. Not too bad. However, could I get fancy with the stairs? Right? You guys know what the toe kick is? You've probably seen them before, where the stairs go up kind of at an angle. So we'll go 6 inches and we'll go 12. But then I'll kind of bend this one back. So one thing that I haven't covered is that you can actually control the points of certain objects. So by default I have my points turned on, but for some of us, if you do function F10, and that might be something you want to write down, it activates all the points of an object. So I can quite literally select that object and take it back a little bit, give it that little toe kick. I could even get really fancy with this, right? And go just, you know, full ham on it. Right? We can get really fancy and be like, there's a little inlay inside of the stairs as well, right? And of course go 12 inches. Right? But we could get really fancy with the profile of this because again, it's something that we can just extrude and bam, we have stairs, right? Is that making sense, guys? You know, you get what I'm kind of doing there? That would be the kind of edge lip of our stairs so that the toe can go in before you take a step. Next time you look at stairs today, notice it, right? Because our stairs in the CAC, that little curvature, definitely has a toe kick, right? It's coming back at an angle. So what's nice about this, at least method, is it gives us a lot of options. So for what we want to do in studio and things like that, that it doesn't always have to be just a straight stair. However, for this assignment, it could be either 3 of those, right? As long as it's a true stair that's 6-inch by 12-inch thread. I keep saying tread, sorry. So we've got this piece. I could make another piece, right? Or I could take this one and copy it. Let's see if that works for us. I could rotate it, take that same point, take the one that I do want to rotate, and bring it around. That's cool and all, and it looks correct. However, kind of missing something there, right? 2 things I could do, right? I could either sort of fake it till I make it. I could move this and just basically put it inside, right? Nobody would ever know, especially in rendered view, right? You would absolutely never know. There's still kind of a lip there though, right? Maybe I could take it a little bit further. I'm gonna get out of rendered view, shaded. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger for the recording. So you guys see how I'm doing that? I'm basically just moving it based on the points that I've already created. Now that's not actually correct. That's actually a longer, you know, well actually it seems to work okay for this landing because we kind of already used it for our landing. Not too bad. We could also stretch this, right? If we needed this to be 4 feet, we could basically take that out as well. So I can extrude also the face or surface, right? So I can select that surface. I can select OK and then basically go, well, I need it to be a little bit longer. It does make a separate piece and it leaves it open. So I might need to close it. I can cap it, stop the cap, right? Or what is it? Some people use it as a positive term. They say that's cap too. Anyway, it can be used both ways, just in case you were wondering. But, you know, as it looks like this, of course, in shaded view, well, in rendered, nobody would ever notice. However, keep in mind that when I make 2D, it's definitely going to make all of those lines, right? So even in that shaded view, what could I possibly do? Do you guys know how I could put these two together? Anybody got the answer? No, joint won't do it. I could join them, but nothing happens. Ah, he said it. Who was it? Christopher? Thank you, sir. So I can do Boolean union, right? And it's going to put those two together. However, I still got all of these lines in here, right? So another option that I can do is when I click on it, you'll see this tabature that says show ISO curves. So unclick that, and a lot better, right? Some of you guys, I noticed in the Make 2D, you're sitting there sort of deleting the rest of the lines. So make sure you turn off ISO curves before you make 2D. However, long story short, there is really no way to get rid of that line that's there. So be careful what kind of method you would want to use when you make that piece longer, or just keep in mind when you extrude it, right? However, the good news is in rendered view, they all disappear anyway. So the object is nice and flush. So we've got one of these. I'm just gonna make a stair all the way to the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy it. I'm gonna take that point. I'm gonna put it there. I'm gonna take these two pieces, rotate, take that one there and flip it all the way around. Awesome. Not too bad. However, I did want to show you, just in case you do want to fix a situation like this, right? So let's say, you know, I chose something else, right? I chose something a little bit more anatomically correct. Something like that. That would be, of course, more correct because the first stair should start at your landing, just like the last stair should stop on your landing too. So I've already kind of messed some things up. Please don't copy this, right? Like I said, I like to do it a few things wrong at the tutorial so I can show you how to fix things as well. So here's our first situation. What do you guys think we should do? Make it longer? So I can extrude this face. Let's see what happens. Extrude, surface, I'm gonna choose that one. Yeah, I mean, it kind of works, and then I guess I could come back and wire cut it, you know, or I could just make a polyline. Right. I can use those intersections, make sure I get the right intersection. Sorry, you probably can't see it too well on the projector. But now we have a curve that we can extrude again. Instead of going that way, I'll fill in. Obviously not the same angle. I'd want to choose the right angle in that profile. But nicely enough, I can Boolean union, right? And it's one solid cohesive object, right? At least when I click on it. And again, take off those ISO curves. Not too shabby. Not great, but you know, not too shabby either. Let's talk about ramps. Also fairly simple compared to what we have now, right? So maybe from here I want to go into a ramp situation, and I want to do it in real time. I mean, why would I always have to make something off in the distance just to kind of put it on something? Maybe I want to do something like that in real time. So it doesn't look like I have the view that I need. It looks like I need my left view. So I'm actually going to right click, set view, and set it to my left. Actually, maybe I'm trying to get. Let's test this. I gotta orient my mind. Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah. So I want to make a ramp now. In my case, I do need to make it sort of 1 to 12. So how would I do that? Well, make the first one first. So 12 and go up 1. So rise over run. You guys remember that from algebra? All right, so we'll make a tiny triangle just to kind of help us out.
Right.
I'll decide my length of that ramp. So in my case, I just want to kind of go to another landing. So I'm going to choose kind of the same landing that I was doing. Perfect, right? I want the ramp to at least be that long. And then I don't know where that is actually going to hit, so I'm just going to draw a line sort of vertically up that goes past it. I'm going to explode that profile that I just made, and we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay. Basically exploding it and getting rid of the stuff that I don't actually need. In my case, I want to extend this angled line to this line, so I'll choose the line that I want to extend to, type extend, and choose the line that I want to extend. Not too bad. And of course trim it. So as you can see, 1 to 12 is not a huge difference, right, to say the very least. Right now it's like the world's smallest thickness, so you might want to change that as well and offset. Let's make it thick. Let's go 12 inches. Perfect. So again, using that geometry to kind of establish what we need and get rid of what we don't need next, right? Another tool that we can use if you haven't used it before is fill it, right? So I can fill it, basically set it to 0 and click on 2 lines and it'll basically put those together. So it should. Well, I guess we can extend too. Not sure why it's not working. We'll extend that one instead and just trim. Not a big deal. There's our profile. It looks like we're still missing 1 line. So it definitely takes a little bit of time. Can't really see that line because it's in another, but let's go ahead and extend that one. We'll choose that line. I guess we can choose the polysurface edge too, not a big deal. Where is that line? Let's take a look at another view. Uh-oh, that's why. So what happens? What should we do? Should we just start over? Probably, right? Or I can simply take this piece, make 2D, enter. I'll get rid of the bad one, obviously, and go over to where it makes all my 2Ds and take that piece. Problem solved, right? So just in case you mess up like that, there's of course another way to fix something. Now, unfortunately, now it's flat, so we gotta spin it up a little bit. So in my case, I need to rotate it 90 degrees. Looks like I need to rotate it 90 degrees this way. And we're back in business. Right, so of course I can move that. Actually, while I'm here, I might as well fix it. So it's not closed. Let's try extend again. I'm not sure why that's not working today. Extend this guy. Oh, there it goes. So normally it just kind of automatically does that. Not sure why. But yeah, there's a profile for our ramp. We can even continue, like, I mean, why do more and more work all the time? You could continue that landing, but maybe we don't know how far it goes out yet, so let's go ahead and just move that and make sure it goes in the right spot. So in our case, right at that edge. Perfect. Go ahead and extrude it. Bring it across. I can even lock it right into place. Nice. We totally have a ramp. Right. I can get that extruded face, right, or surface, and take it out. What? I think we were going with like a 4-foot landing. You'll also notice that you have the ability to cap or make something solid from that, right? So, and you guys probably learned this really quick in assignment 3. you know, there's definitely some options when I extrude anything. Honestly, there's a lot of different options in all of these. I'll select that one, enter, and then again, I'll select solid. I could select both sides, which is kind of cool. If you're trying to do something quite symmetrical, you can delete the input, which is sometimes necessary. So keep in mind that, you know, there's definitely some options for things. I wish there was a by default to turn off ISO curves. You can just highlight everything and turn off ISO curves once you're finished, but I don't know, I think they get in the way. But sweet, let's continue those stairs. Copy. We're going to the top, bless you. I'll lock those into place. Some of you guys are like, dang, I could totally use this as my egress stair right now, my ceremonial stair. Well, maybe it doesn't have a ramp involved, but clearly a fire stair is like made for this, right? I mean, just make one and then just keep going, right? So let's say I was complete, right? You know, at least for the sake of the tutorial and the time. So let's get my guardrails, right? And start to model those. So the stairs are looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and put them together. So Boolean join, or sorry, Boolean union, and get rid of ISO curves again. Again, I have no idea why they turned back on, but what is nice about ISO curves is you could O-snap to them. So like if you ever needed the midpoint or, you know, needed a certain point in there, again, I mean, it's not like ISO curves suck, but you know, they're just not useful right now. Too many points to look at. But yeah, we've got our piece. The next thing I want to do is make a rail, right? So in my case, it's just a curve and a polyline. So in my case, this is maybe kind of the most time-consuming part. We basically need to retrace this edge, right? So in my case, I do want a guardrail at the edge. I do want it to start here. You know, I do want it to maintain that angle, so I'm basically just choosing the angles and choosing the perimeter of my landing. However, kind of look at what I'm clicking on, right? I'm maintaining that angle and the flatness of those landings as well. So in my case, I accidentally went up here, so I'll need to kind of do both. There'll be a little bump in that one. Again, I like kind of making some mistakes so you can kind of see what happens. But again, every time that it changes elevation, I'm basically maintaining that level. There's my landing. And essentially we just went around the whole piece, right? And that'll end it right there. Enter. Yeah, don't hit escape, otherwise all that will go away. Some of us are definitely, you know, we've used AutoCAD and escape works, but of course in Rhino, not the case. So that's cool, but I don't want a rail on the floor. So how high is a guardrail? Or a handrail, I should say. 3 feet, right? So of course I'll take that entire line and move it 3 feet. Type move, I'll type in 3 feet, enter. Make sure that it's of course straight, so holding shift and click. And I bet you can see where this is going, right? I could either use pipe, I could use sweep and get a really nice profile. Maybe I want to go Louis Kahn on this, and I do want something that sort of grips my hand or shows a particular shape. Maybe I'm obsessed with the letter C and I want C lettered profiles, things like that. However, let's get the other side as well. So same thing. Unfortunately, there's not like a magical way to do this. Actually, you know, there might be. Hold on, let's try this real quick. I'm gonna offset it. Let's see which direction it goes. Oh, it'll go inside. Look at that. Okay, so 3 feet. Let's try this out. I don't think it'll work, but maybe. It was worth a shot. Look at that shit. That's awful. Anyway, it was worth a shot, but it didn't work. Obviously too many lines. But, so let's get that polyline involved. Yeah, that's where it went wrong. It's because I already had too many mistakes. However, if yours was more congruent, that would probably work. So, always worth testing, right? I mean, why work harder when we can work smarter? Maintain that angle. We'll maintain that angle. Let's see what happens when I do that. I don't know, sometimes I like just doing random things, especially in these tutorials. Because to tell you the truth, I'm still learning too, guys. There's never a day that goes by that I don't learn something. Right? What do they say? Learn something new every day. So let's try this out. Let's move it again 3 feet. Awesome. Hold shift, make sure it's in the right spot. But already from the get-go, we kind of have this wireframe, if you will, of those handrails. We just need to give them thickness. So I'll go ahead and make one of them with a sweep, and I'll make one of them with a pipe. So in my case, I could just take that curve, I could type in pipe, and the radius of usually a handrail is about 2 inches, so I'm going to go with the radius of 1 inch so I can get a diameter of 2. It's asking for also the end radius, so not that you would want to do this, but you could go from 1 inch to 6 inches, right? It would slowly get bigger and bigger and bigger for that pipe. However, in our case, we do want it to just be the same. Right, so I'll hit enter again, and enter again. However, it's a pretty small pipe. I have a feeling it went with 1 millimeter instead of 1 inch. So let's try that again. Pipe, yeah, by default. So I just need to type in 1 inch symbol, and of course that's 25.4 millimeters, and 1 inch symbol, enter, enter. Nice. So I mean, that's all well and dandy, especially for our assignment. It comes in pretty well in terms of the rendered view as well. Not too bad, definitely looks like a handrail. It's definitely enough for studio, I would say. Yeah, because I don't get too fancy with the rails, especially in studio, because your professor will get really mad at you if your stairs look awesome, but the rest of the architecture looks like poop, right? So definitely be careful with the level of detail that you model something in this digital realm. Let's continue though. Let's go with shaded. And let's get this side, let's get fancy with the spices. You know, let's go curved. Nah, might be too much processing. I'll go ahead and draw it off to the side, but I do want to set myself up for success. So I'm going to draw it somewhere, of course, close and relatively the right scale. So this is where I meant you can kind of get fancy. Let's say I was going to do, I don't know, some crazy shape where my hand is able to get inside and it looks like a, I don't know, a Le Corbusier hand or something. Sweet. Take that shape way off in the distance over there. Bring it back into to focus. It's the trouble with drawing in free space. You never know where it's gonna go. There it is. I'll take it over. It actually looks kind of small, so I'm just gonna fake it till I make it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, and bring it. What we know from, of course, sweeping is that this profile needs to be really close, if not just on top of it, right? And that's pretty fairly close. So let's go ahead and type in sweep. Sweep 1 in this case. It's going to ask for the rail. Awesome. Going to ask for the shape. Awesome. Enter. It's going to ask for the direction. In this case, that doesn't really matter. I'm going to hit enter, and bam. Right, I'm going to close my sweep because, you know, that. Oh, I think it means by close sweep, it means like all the way continue. So probably won't do that. I do have an interesting profile, so it might not cap. All right, let's try it. Cap. Oh, look at that. Wasn't too bad. But now we have a pretty interesting rail, to say the least. Definitely a little bit more architectural even. You guys see that? Again, play around with it. Have some fun, right, to say the least. Last but not least, what we need is something, of course, holding up these rails. I'm going to go with the corners. Normally they're called balusters, right? And of course you'll learn that through Revit, because Revit, of course, labels everything atomically. But in our case, I just want to make one really nice. In fact, I might want to even go at an angle. So let's draw it at that angle. I guess I don't no longer need the left view, but let's go ahead and make it in the inside corner. And then I kind of want sort of like this perpendicular situation, and let's go with just kind of like a pipe. Oh no, wrong side. So do make sure that you of course click on the right one. Again, I could move it, right? I could just move this point. If I have the points activated, I can type in curve, function F10. I can get that point in there and I can move it across. Right, in my case, I might want to switch views and get that as straight as possible. So in my case, I just want to pipe that because otherwise I wouldn't be able to see it. I could also sweep it too, you know, it could get even fancier. Right? Not too bad. At least faking it till I make it. How could I make that look a little bit more real? Well, I can sort of fake it a little bit and say that it's in the stair. Right? You guys see that? Looks a little bit more realistic, to say the least. We could also do stringers this way. We could do really, some of you guys, if you wanted to do like floating stairs, you could do a stringer in the middle, right? And then have sort of these open stairs. You guys know what I'm talking about? Anyway, we still have some time, so maybe I can get into that too. But let's talk about these balusters. It doesn't look like I quite reached it. I could do a couple of things. I can extrude that surface, that circle right there, enter, and just make it a little bit more. That way it at least connects close enough, right? I mean, nobody's gonna actually notice that, so let's check it out in render view just to make sure. Ah, man, you're gonna notice. Let's fix it. That's even worse. So obviously we'd want to get that angle just right. It works. But obviously I don't need to do that over and over and over again, so I'm gonna go ahead and join those. However, that won't work, will it? We'll have to Boolean join them because they are objects. Sweet. Go ahead and copy. In my case, I can copy in the exact same place because I just want to take it across. Not bad. Seems to work better for that profile. But yeah, now we have some balusters. Some very interesting balusters, but balusters nonetheless. I'm going to take a point that I know is true, right? So I'll take that one and basically just start putting it around, right? I can put it on every stair and just be that guy, but that might be a little too much. It looks like we're making 70 stairs right now. Not too bad. But as you can see, the power of copying goes a long way, right? Especially in this digital platform. Let's talk about, last but not least, let's try those open stairs real quick. We can take actually one of our lines that we already had, just for the sake of tutorial. Obviously you'd want to be a little more refined with this, so I'm going to hide that one real quick and just copy this line since we already made it. Copy it off to the side, and we'll go with, you guys know what a stringer is, right? And a stringer is the part that is the structure of that stair, right? Normally you have two stringers on both sides of your stair with, sure,
keys to the
that one. Normally a stringer's on both sides of those stairs, right? So you have a left stringer, a right stringer, and they sort of hold those treads in place. However, a really cool modern stair is one stringer in the middle and they're sort of placed on it. I'm sure you've seen it before, but what it ends up being is a little bit more structured. So in my case, I'm going to start with like maybe a, I don't know, a 6 by 12. Right, so I'll go with 6 inches by 12, right? And I'm basically just going to sweep that. So I'm going to get as close to the middle as possible of that profile. Sweet. Oh, looks like it's off in the distance. Perfect. So let's go ahead and sweep those. Sweep one, awesome. We've got ourselves a stringer. So very much like a rail, but now I need to basically put in strips those boxes. I could make a box. That way it's, you know, at least a true stair. I'm gonna go with, I don't know, 4 feet by 12 inches by, I don't know, 3 inches, right? But that's essentially one stair, right? And of course, last but not least, we just need to put it in the right spot. Definitely a little bit harder of a stair to make, but as you can see, it definitely has a nice modern look to it. sort of get a little fancier with it. We can even put like a little triangle underneath and, you know, make it really nice. However, last but not least, we'll want to make sure that it is tested and true. So in my case, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to see if I can use the dimensions of my other stair. So I'm going to click on 2 points. See if that worked. Hot dog, look at that. The power of knowing geometry. You guys see what I did there? It's known as the master level, right? But clearly I'm using basically my drawing itself to complete the drawing. Well, bam! Now we got some see-through stairs. And really the same thing would be applied if we made the rails for it. So let's take a look in rendered view. Yeah, that's gonna look, you know, really nice. I mean, how many of you guys could use this right now in Studio? Right? We just made 2 different types of stairs. Now, this is definitely the manual way of making stairs, right? Even though it is easy, I will say there's even easier ways to make stairs. In fact, and I haven't shown you guys this yet, because it does take a little bit more advanced, but it's called Food for Rhino. Usually it's for Rhino. What's really funny is if you don't put the number 4, it'll give you like actual like buckets of rhino food. So be careful with that. So Food for Rhino is a great plugin website where, well, there are some that you can pay for. They're really great. Honestly, you don't need to really pay for any plugins. But this thing has it all, right? So let's see if we have some stair programs. And would you look at that? There's people who can make parametric stairs. Well, that one's got 2 rating, but it looks good, right? And of course you can make parametric stairs. Now I'm not going to cover this, you know, honestly, probably in computer graphics. This is a little bit more advanced. But for some of you that already know Revit and you're very used to making Revit stairs, guess what? There's a plugin for Rhino to make Revit stairs. So don't get me wrong, the way that we did it, I would say is most tried and true and most flexible, right? I can really make any stair, any ramp at any time, right? I can even copy it, and as you saw, I finished, right, within, you know, tutorial time. However, keep in mind, you know, over the weekend, play around with some plugins. Not everything will install, so if you need help, look it up, right, on YouTube. How do I install a plugin to Rhino, right? And of course, you'll actually find one. Funny enough, that one's actually easier on Windows than it is Macintosh. Kind of 2 different processes. However, this isn't required, guys, but I did want to show you at least the power of these programs. In fact, this is what I meant, where you can find extra render shades, you can find all kinds of color settings, all kinds of preferences. Keep in mind to read the reviews though, because you don't want to mess up your entire Rhino to a point to where I can't even fix it. So you know, use with caution, to say the least. But at least it's available, and you know that it exists. Any questions about stairs, guys? Rails, ramps? So as you can see, we haven't put this into the abstraction model. So last but not least, let's take a look at the requirements of what I'm asking for. Just one 11 by 17 portrait, please, of a 45 plan oblique drawing, right? Show bounding box, so that would be that 30 by 30 box. Yes, sir. Yeah. It's really easy. However, I'm going to go pretty fast just because I don't really want you to use a whole lot of spiral stairs for at least this project. Maybe you have one in Studio, and that's absolutely fine. Everything, of course, starts with a circle for that. And you do have to do some calculations, right? So basically you need a certain number of steps so that when you raise those steps, you don't accidentally hit your head, right? So we'd have to do some calculation, but just for the sake of tutorial, let's go with 4 foot steps, if you will. Or at least a radius of that. I need a center point, so I'm going to draw a line, get my center point, and that's essentially my first step. What I would use is polar array, right? So I'm going to go array polar. It's going to ask me for the center point. Of course, that's pretty common. This is where it gets kind of tricky. I need the number of steps in a full rotation. What I would do is go look at another one and go, okay, they're using 12. Oh, they're using 14. Because honestly, they're all kind of different. Most spiral staircases aren't to code, right? So keep that in mind. You don't normally see a spiral staircase at a school or a public place because you can't get furniture up them. Have you ever tried to get a couch up one of those things? It's the worst. But it is really cool, and they did get very popular in the 70s. So in my case, I'm just going to go with, I don't know, 16, just because as my memory serves it right. I'm going to go with a full 360 degrees, and it's going to make those lines for me, essentially those steps. I'm going to hit enter, and in my case, they're pretty long, so I need to trim them. TRIM, and get rid of, at least what's not necessary. Because essentially what I need is a bunch of little triangles. So, of course, I'm making those for myself as a template first. Now, I could get fancier with it, but I'm going to kind of go for speed right now and just make one of those steps real quick. I'm going to just kind of go straight. That way these are all triangles. What's really nice is this is kind of just my template. I could copy that again a whole bunch of times, or I could do polar array, right? But in my case, I'm just going to make one at a time just to kind of show you what to do, right? Obviously, you want these steps to really overlap. So, in fact, you would make kind of 2 steps. I'm going to take that one. Again, kind of ridiculous triangles going on here, but small tutorial. So let's take that one. Let's get out of rendered view. There we go. So we got our piece. Let's extrude it. Let's create a step. It's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's not a closed curve, so let's go ahead and close it. Awesome. Extrude it again. Maybe it's not flat. Do it. Anyway, 6 inches. Awesome. It's kind of a big step, or at least in my case, I should have probably used a bigger circle. Let's go ahead and zoom out. But again, all I need to do is copy it and basically take that point up. Oh, I see where I went wrong. Gotcha. Let's not make this so haphazard for ourselves. Let's actually just trim this down. We'll do it correctly. We'll make a copy, because why would I want to do that again? And trim the heck out of it. Let's actually make it a curved stair. Get rid of everything we don't need. So in my case, remember how I said you need 2 triangles worth? Sweet. Got a little slice of pizza. Join it. Make sure it's all together. And we'll actually build it on top of this little template that we made. That looks much better. So extrude. Let's go with, it's supposed to be 6 inches, but my drawing's already whack, so I'll just kind of fake it till I make it. Let's go ahead and move that back. Right, so take my center point and lock onto your center point. See how it says in point there? You can always click on the circle as well. Right, so move that back. Let's go ahead and extrude it there. Right, get things, it doesn't look like I took my extrusion. And let's actually do it the easy way. So again, polar array. Again, I would need to calculate how many I need, but let's say I need, ooh, this would be hard, 8. Nice. Enter again. And in my case, I just need to raise these. Certainly. In my case, I think I actually still need 16. Let's try that again. I'm doing the math wrong. Not master level as much as I thought. Go 16, enter, enter. What? Didn't even do it. Try again. Oh, center. 16, yes. 360, yes. There we go. Enter. So as you can see, it's kind of like all the steps are sort of flat right now with each other. So essentially, what I could do is basically raise one at a time. Move. Take that point, pop it up. Take this point, move, pop it up 2 places. Take this next one, so on and so forth. However, I don't normally do a lot of spiral stairs, but fake it till you make it. You'll notice, like I was saying, most spiral stairs aren't to code. Very often the stair itself will actually be too high or too low, or obviously not ADA in any way. But I did want to answer the question. Helpful so far, Christopher? At least give you probably a better take of what to accomplish, because I don't think you want them as ugly as mine, but this would definitely be, I think, okay for even Kernodle to be like, yeah, that's a spiral stair, right? Keep in mind, I do have perspective on, or sorry, not perspective, perpendicular. You'll notice that, you know, the reason I can get that so well is because my midpoint and all of my O snaps are turned on. So also the reason I can go at this speed. Also, I'm just hitting enter again, or spacebar, to reenact the movement command. But yeah, not too bad, right? Last but not least, I could put a pole in the middle and call it a day. Also from here, I can take the entire thing. Oh, don't want to get everything in the background. Take that, add that one, and that one, and go ahead and copy it. So copy, again, take that point. So we can kind of still do the same thing. All I did was calculate one revolution, right? So of course I can double that revolution, obviously put it in the right spot. So move that guy right there. Sweet. Beautiful. Let's say, you know, it wasn't matching the height that I needed. I would take all of them and stretch them out a bit. Fake it till I make it. But yes, at least for our project, guys, please don't use a spiral stair. And if you do, use it sparingly, right? I mean, I don't want to see just a spiral stair all the way to the top. It's like, come on, you cheated, right? However, if you needed it for studio, that's kind of the reason I did that, just in case. It sounded more like a studio question than our question, so fair enough. Any other questions, guys? That was a great one.
Yeah, do you want the staircase to conform to Wonderwall abstract?
Not yet, right? So after this assignment, we're gonna do the topography. So we're gonna get all the pieces first. We have the abstraction, we're gonna have the stairs, we're gonna have the topography, and then you'll put them together, right? We're gonna separate it a little bit first, right? Otherwise it starts to get really confusing. And in fact, some of our computers sometimes can't even handle all that information at once too. So wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of make your stairs in a separate file, or turn everything off, all your layers, and make some new layers, right? Does that make sense? But yes, to answer your question, Robert, we're not putting them together just yet. However, if you were somebody who didn't finish your assignment 3, now's your chance to maybe retweak some things. Maybe you saw some other designs out there that you actually liked a little bit better. There's still time to change it a little bit. Maybe not for the grade of assignment 3, but obviously the design, right? Sound good, guys? I'll go ahead and stop it here.